Hey everybody, I'm Graham Parker, and this is the Around Pickens podcast. So it's been a little over a year now since we started putting out monthly episodes of the show. In that time, we've talked to a pretty wide variety of guests. We've spoken to our library's branch manager, Katie Dobson. We had a special episode with Sheriff Donnie Craig and the school's COO, Chris Wallace. And of course, we've spoken to multiple department heads within the county. We've had a lot of great conversations in the last year. And after most of them, we usually get to hear from Chairman Chris Stancil answering a viewer question. But Chris is just one part of the Board of Commissioners. His title is Chairman, but there are two other post-commissioners that vote alongside him. And I think it's time that we introduce them and give them a chance to tell us a little bit about what they do and what their goals are for the county. First though, let me give you a little bit of background about how the BOC is structured. Back in episode 2, Chris gave us a bit of a history about how the board developed. To cut a long story short, Pickens always had a sole commissioner overseeing county operations until a referendum was voted on in 2010, and citizens elected to establish a 3-person board. The other members of this board would be post-commissioners representing different sides of the county. Post 1 represents the western side, while Post 2 represents the eastern side. Today, those commissioners are Josh Tippens for Post 1 and Josh Tatum for Post 2. I know, 2 Josh T's. How funny is that? Well, another funny thing is having a 3-person board, whenever the majority are together, so that means more than one, that makes up a quorum. And this means that they can't meet together unless they're in a public meeting or executive session. Being on a podcast is neither of those things, so I had to get a little bit creative in putting this program together. What I decided to do was to interview each one individually and to try to combine what we talked about into similar themes. So what you are about to hear are different parts of different conversations, where either commissioner is speaking to the same general question. When we switch from one to the other, I'll give a little audio cue to distinguish which one is speaking. And hopefully this comes across in a way that's easy to understand. But without further ado, let's get to those interviews. I first began by simply asking the commissioners to tell us a little bit about themselves and what the role of a post-commissioner is in the government. We'll start with Commissioner Tatum and then move to Commissioner Tippens. Well, Josh, thanks for joining me this evening. I know you just got done with a long day of work, so I appreciate you joining me in the studio.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, for anyone who doesn't know you, being a commissioner isn't your full-time job, but what do you do when you're not sitting on the board?
I'm actually the buyer for Buck Jones Nursery down in Hickory Flat in southeast Cherokee County. So I buy the trees and shrubbery for them. That's what my full-time job is.
Oh, well, have you been doing that for long?
21 years.
Wow.
Yep, it's been a while. So I started that right out of college. I graduated from Pickens High in 98 and then went to UGA and got a degree in horticulture and started at Buck Jones and been there ever since.
Oh, man. So, graduated from Pickens County High School. How long have you lived in the county?
My whole life. I'm actually a sixth generation Piconian.
So are you from District 2 that you represent?
No, I grew up actually in Ludville on the west side of the county.
Okay.
Grew up out there, and then when Hillary and I got married, we bought a house over off of Burnt Mountain Road, and that's where we've lived ever since.
Oh, I've got you. Well, let's talk a little bit about being a post commissioner. I know you don't oversee the day-to-day work, but where would you say that your job falls in with the grand scheme of Pickens County governance?
I always kind of feel like for Commissioner Tippens and I, we're more in the big picture stuff. That's kind of what we do. Commissioner Stancil handles all the day-to-day, and we come up with these wild and crazy ideas that drive Chris crazy and try and implement them.
I got you. Well, Josh, I know that what you do is a little bit different than what Chris does as a post-commissioner. Can you try to give us just a brief idea? What is the role of a post-commissioner in the county government, and what do you typically spend your time doing?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The county government's set up very different than our federal or state government, right? We've got a day-to-day chairman that kind of oversees the operations and personnel and all that stuff within the county. If I had to equate it and make it look like the state or federal government, I would say that Chris, as the chairman, is really more of our CEO or our executive branch. Mr. Tatum, or Commissioner Tatum, and myself are as post-commissioners, I would say, really form up the legislative branch of our government locally as far as creating policies, approving the budget. We also dabble a little bit in a quasi-judicial role, approving it or denying zoning requests and that stuff. So it's really been a challenge learning all the ins and outs of the county's government, but it's been very rewarding, and I've enjoyed it so far.
Yeah, but so I know you've gone through a program with the ACCG to become a certified county commissioner.
Yes, sir. The ACCG Certified County Commissioner program was great. It was a way to introduce newly elected commissioners into what county governments do. That curriculum covered a lot of facets of county government, from general finance to zoning to county law, all kinds of stuff. So it was a great program. I would very thankful that I took the time to go through it. I took a lot out of it, and actually I've started my specialized course for the ACCG right now. So we're excited to take some more classes and see where that goes too. So
very cool. Following this exchange, I moved to ask them about what their goals are as commissioners. Both of them have been serving since 2022, and I was curious if these last 2 years in office have changed those goals in any way. Here's what they had to say. Well, tell me about some of these ideas. What were some ideas you had coming into the job 2 years ago?
One of the main things that really got me to run was the issue of sewage and whether or not that would be put in from Big Canoe out to the Foothills shopping complex. And once you have sewage, you can't stop it. And that was one of the main reasons I ran, was to try and control that so we didn't have rampant growth. Working in Hickory Flat, I've seen how once sewage comes into a place, it just absolutely destroys it. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the main things, and that was my campaign slogan, was keep Pickens rural. So that's what I've tried to do, is anything we can do to help that.
Well, 2 years on, would you say that's still your goal, or have you had any perspective changes?
That's still my main goal. Anything we can do. Obviously, we've added things on, like trying to improve the park system. That's one of the big things too we're trying to work on, is how to improve, put in some pickleball courts, hopefully build a new pool, or at least fix up the old one, but hopefully build a new pool, that sort of thing.
I got you.
At Roper Park.
Right. Yes. Well, having lived on both the east side and the west side, do you see any unique issues or opportunities with either side of the county?
From what I've gathered from people I've talked to, it's pretty much the same. Most people want for Pickens County to stay rural. That's really what I see on both sides of the county. Obviously, it's different topography, the eastern side being more mountainous, the western side being not flat, but not as mountainous as the eastern side. So you have a lot more farmland on the west side of the county. But it's still the same idea. Everyone wants it to stay rural.
Mm-hmm.
I think that stopping growth entirely is not an option that is feasible to entertain. There's enough land zoned at higher density around the county that even if we did lock down and denied every zoning request that came through, there's still going to be growth that happens there. So I think probably for us, the more pressing issue is focusing on our comprehensive plan and ensuring that our land use intensity map stays consistent with that, so that we get growth in the places that we want it, and we keep the rural areas of Pickens County as rural as we can. And I think, based on interactions I've had with people on the west end of the county, that's their biggest concern, is nobody wants a big subdivision in their backyard when they've lived somewhere their whole life. So figuring out where we want that growth and development, and where we want to keep rural. So that's probably the biggest.
Yeah, I know that's an ongoing conversation. Did that play any role in why you wanted to get involved with the Board of Commissioners 2 years ago?
I'd say that's part of it. Yeah, probably. It was certainly the largest issue within the campaign that I ran. But for me personally, I think the biggest issue, again, from a personal level, was making sure that my children had the opportunities to go outside and play just like I had. I mean, nobody wants to see massive growth. There's nothing against Cherokee County or Woodstock or any of those places, but it's a different lifestyle, right? We want to maintain the the outside views, the rural landscape, and all that Pickens County has to offer. So for me, I think the biggest reason that I wanted to run was to just ensure that my kids had the same opportunities that I had growing up, whether that's maintaining growth or managing growth or setting policies that are friendly to the people of the county, as opposed to favoring big business coming in and taking over. That I think that was probably my biggest drive. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sure most folks in the community would agree with you.
I hope so.
Well, with 2 years of experience under your belt, have any other priorities come up for you in that time?
Yeah. So kind of going back to the whole zoning thing, I think a big priority for us is, again, learning how to manage that growth and streamlining processes for people who want to assist in that, right? So when Pickens County started zoning, just in general, people were allowed to come in and say they had a 100-acre tract of land in the middle of nowhere. If they wanted that to be highway business or commercial or industrial, all they had to do was say, that's what I want it to be. So from that land use intensity map, we've got some wonky stuff that we're trying to work through. And really the process to change zoning has been the same or consistent for everybody, regardless if you're going to a higher density or a lower density. So I believe you covered it with Chairman Stancil on the last podcast, that being able to streamline that if you want to go to a lower density, or streamline the process for somebody that wants to go to a lower density is a step in that direction. Another thing that, when I was going through the campaign, water, everybody talked about water. And again, back to your last podcast, Pickens County needs a reservoir. Nobody argues that fact. But the thing that I've learned since I've been in here is we can actually buy water from our surrounding counties cheaper than if we were to build a reservoir and treat it ourselves. That's not to say that we don't need the reservoir. We're not going to get one eventually. But I think in the meantime, the contracts and agreements that we've got in place with the surrounding counties, they will float us until we get there. So.
Finally, I closed out the interviews by asking them about their interactions with Pickens residents and how their constituents could get in touch with them. Here's what they had to say.
Well, sitting on the board, I guess you're something of a minor celebrity around here. Do you get recognized very often?
Not necessarily any more than I did before.
So. I guess that's probably good. Well, when you do talk to your constituents, what are some big topics that come up?
One of the main things people seem to talk to us a lot about is road situations, wanting road improvements and that sort of thing, which is natural. I get that. So that's one of the main things we try to help people with, is how to go through the motions of, how do we get certain road problems fixed. We'll have people ask us about animal issues and how we go through those situations. Again, being a post commissioner, we a lot of times are helping people get in touch with the right people at the county office to help them with their issue. We don't necessarily solve the issues. We just help facilitate the process. And hopefully we're doing a good job with that. It seems to have good results.
Yeah, well, I guess you'd be the first to know if it wasn't.
Yes.
Well, for anybody who does want to get in touch, what's the best way for them to contact you?
The best is to email me is generally the best. Since I do have a full-time job, I can't always answer my phone. And a lot of these issues take longer to answer anyway. So if you email me, my email is jtatum@pickenscountyga.gov. And you can text me if you want to. My cell's 706-669-1440.
Okay.
Yeah, so anybody could call me or text me at their convenience. My cell phone number is 706-669-1972. Also, I've got an email address for the county. It's jtippens@pickenscountyga.gov. Okay. Happy to respond to anybody if they've got questions or anything along those lines.
Very good. Well, Josh, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything you'd like to tell your constituents or the Pickens County public at large?
Yeah, so, I guess the best thing I could say was thank you. Serving as the District 1 or Post 1 Commissioner for Pickens County, it's short of being a dad and being a husband, is probably one of the greatest honors of my life. So I appreciate the opportunity that I've been given to serve, and I hope to continue to do it. So thank you all. And again, feel free to reach out to me anytime if I can answer any questions.
So there you have it. Those are our Joshes. Listen, for whatever it's worth, I've had the pleasure of working with these two for a couple of years now, and I can tell you that they are some very down-to-earth people who really have a desire to serve. As the county's communications guy, I forward a lot of messages to them, and in my experience, they've always been pretty quick to respond or quick to refer matters to the right people. So if you'd like to get in touch with them, check the description of this episode for their contact information. Whether you've got an issue you need help with or just want to give them a little encouragement, I know they'd be happy to hear from you. But on that note, we will close out this episode of the show. Until next time, I've been your host, Graham Parker.
And I'm Josh Tippens.
And I'm Josh Tatum.
And we'll see you around.